final couplet with me, Theo Cowan. Today we're on video, and that's mainly to show off my new podcasting arm that allows me to be hands-free for the first time in 120 sonnets. I don't know what advantage that gives me, but it feels fantastic. I can gesticulate all over the place, and I don't have to worry about. I mean, I wasn't holding the microphone in the first place, so I don't really know what I'm talking about with hands-free, but I feel much freer, if that's okay to say. Now, I think we should start with a bit of Shakespeare news, and I don't know if any of you have seen it, but there is some big Shakespeare news this week. Let me just get the article up. Portrait of Shakespeare's possible lover found. How's that for a headline? So, we've talked before about the Earl of Southampton being potentially the fair youth in this series of sonnets, or just in general Shakespeare's lover. And there's been a portrait, which is a little miniature, that's been found of the Earl of Southampton. And I'll tell you what, I'll pop it up on the screen there. I'll just put it there. And look at that head of hair. First of all, I think we should just say, wow. Lovely red ringlets on the Earl of Southampton. Very pale, but what can we expect from an English bloke? And a fantastic jacket, one that I wouldn't mind myself, if I'm being honest. Anyway, so this has been found, this miniature, and they're speculating that potentially it could have been given to Shakespeare by the Earl of Southampton, because miniatures at the time in the 1500s, these miniature paintings were often done on the back of playing cards apparently, and sometimes the playing card would be, the love suit, and the playing card would be given to your lover. And this could have been given to William Shakespeare. I mean, how is that for excitement? Maybe it wasn't, but I like to think it could have been. It could well have been. Pretty cool. Anyway, I think it's about time we look at the next sonnet in the series, which is Sonnet 120. Let's take a listen, shall we? That you were once unkind befriends me now, and for that sorrow which I then did feel, needs must I under my transgression bow, unless my nerves were brass or hammered steel. For if you were by my unkindness shaken as I by yours, you've passed a hell of time. And I, a tyrant, have no leisure taken to weigh how once I suffered in your crime. Oh, that our night of woe might have remembered my deepest sense, how hard true sorrow hits. And soon to you, as you to me then tendered the humble salve which wounded bosoms fits. But that your trespass now becomes a fee. Mine ransoms yours, and yours must ransom me. So, we start with, that you were once unkind befriends me now. So the fact that you were once mean to me, you were once a bit of an arsehole, don't know what you did, maybe you cheated, whatever he did. I mean, Shakespeare obviously knew what he did. I don't know what he did. But he did something bad, all right? And the fact that he did something bad, I can now actually use that against you. That's my friend now, is what he's saying in this first line, which is a crazy thing to say in a love sonnet, I have to say. And for that sorrow which I then did feel, needs must I under my transgression bow, unless my nerves were brass or hammered steel. So because of the sorrow that I felt back then, yes, I suffered. I had a tough time when you were mean to me. So because I felt all this sorrow, I now must bow down to you under the weight of my own wrongdoing. So I understand. We're on a level here. You were mean to me. I've now been mean to you. I think it's a bit more than mean. I think it's probably infidelity, but I don't know why I keep saying mean. But I did a bad thing to you. You did a bad thing to me. I admit that. I must bow down to you now, unless my nerves were brass. So unless my heart was made of brass or hammered steel. So basically, unless I had no emotion at all, or I was literally made of brass or steel. So unless I didn't have any feelings. And if you were by my unkindness shaken, as I by yours, you've passed a hell of time. So if you were hurt by the cruelty that I showed you, just as I was by the cruelty you showed me, then you have been to hell. Like, you've had a horrible time. Understand that. Just like I did, just like I went to hell when you were a bad person to me. And I, a tyrant, have no leisure taken to weigh how once I suffered in your crime. So I, like a tyrant, didn't actually take the time back then when you did me wrong, when you went off and you cheated and you did all your bad things. I actually haven't had time to reflect on that, really. I didn't take the time to remember how much I suffered when you wronged me. Oh, that our night of woe might have remembered my deepest sense, how hard true sorrow hits. So, if only your earlier sorrow had reminded me of how hard true sorrow hits. So he's obviously writing this a bit later. I mean, he is. We know that he's written a few sonnets about how badly he's messed up before he's written this one. So now he's saying, God, if only I could have remembered how bad the sorrow was, then I would have said this earlier. You know, I would have been sorry earlier. So he's saying, then I would have apologized to you as quickly as you would have apologized to me, right? You know, if I could have just quickly remembered how I felt when you did me wrong, then I would have apologized, and just as you apologized to me back in the day. And soon to you, as you to me then tended. So that's the apology thing. I jumped ahead there slightly. The humble salve which wounded bosoms fit. So giving you the medicine that your wounded heart needed. All right? So I would have given you that earlier if I had have remembered the sorrow that I felt. And now, of course, we're on to the final couplet, which is a doozy, I have to say. But that your trespass now becomes a fee. Mine ransoms yours, and yours must ransom me. So he's saying the fact that you did wrong before, that actually sort of cancels out my wrongdoing. And so we've just got to get on with it, really. All right, that's what he's saying here. It's not really an apology, is it? I mean, he is kind of saying, yeah, I do apologize, but remember the bad thing you did to me. So actually, you know, we now move on. We're both sorry. So your earlier offense against me is now sort of compensation in a way. And our sorries cancel each other out. So let's just say water under a bridge, go to the pub, have a couple of pints, call it a day, is what he's saying there. This, I have to say, is a wild sonnet. I don't know how I would feel receiving this, but then I don't know how I would feel receiving his previous 2 sonnets either. He's trying a different tactic, and I don't think so far any of the tactics would work. I mean, they definitely wouldn't work on me. Would they? I don't know. Would they work on you? Would someone saying this work on you? Like, it's a bit childish, isn't it? You were bad to me, actually. You were bad to me last month, so it's actually fine that I'm bad to you this month. That's how it works. I don't know about that, Shakespeare. I don't think it's your finest work. He really struggles, doesn't he, to say sorry, to just upfront say sorry. Really struggles to do that. Right, I think it's about time we put this to our story. And if you remember last week, Shakespeare had gone to this bell tower, and he was ringing the bells like no tomorrow to get the attention of the Earl of Southampton, his one-time on-off lover. And it does get the attention of the Earl of Southampton. The Earl of Southampton goes, who the hell is ringing that bell at this hour, for God's sake? And he, along with a lot of other people in the street, if I'm being honest, they all sort of wander towards this church because they're like, what's going on? And they see this figure hanging out of the bell tower going, Earl of Southampton, come up here. And so the Earl of Southampton goes, oh my God, that's Shakespeare. And he rushes up the spiral staircase of the church. Eventually he reaches the top, the bell tower, where Shakespeare is there. And he says, Shakespeare, what's going on? And Shakespeare says, I had to get your attention somehow. I know you hate me, but obviously I need to read you this sonnet. So he reads him Sonnet 119, which, of course, we know was basically him saying, look, I messed up, I cheated on you, but that actually could be a good thing, and our love can grow stronger from this. So let's see how that is received by the Earl of Southampton, and how Sonnet 120 fits into all this. Shakespeare finishes reading Sonnet 119 to the Earl of Southampton. The Earl says, sorry, I'm not sure if I'm getting this quite right, Shakespeare. You're saying that you cheated on me and that actually could be a good thing. Is that right? Because that doesn't seem like a great thing to say to someone that you've cheated on. And Shakespeare says, yes, that is about right, actually. Yeah, I just thought, yeah, it was bad what I did. It was definitely bad, but good things could come of it. Me and you, better than ever before. Could be something in it. And the Earl says, why can't you ever just say sorry? Like a normal person. You messed up. We both know you messed up. Why can't you just say sorry? And Shakespeare says, I know. I find it hard, all right? But I do genuinely believe that it could be good for us, all right? And the Earl of Southampton says, Shakespeare, we will never be together again, because you cannot apologise for your wrongdoing. And with that, he turns on his heel and starts making his way down the spiral staircase. Shakespeare realises he has to win him round somehow, and he might have to use some dirty tactics. He has to get to the bottom of the church before the Earl of Southampton so he can meet him at the door. So he grabs a rope that is on the floor, because why not? And he dangles the rope over the edge of the bell tower, and he starts rappelling down, abseiling, if you will. And as he abseils, he writes Sonnet 120, which of course was all about the Earl of Southampton's affair that he had years ago before he even went to jail. By the time he got to the bottom, he'd written Sonnet 120. He did it quick, baby. And there at the doors, he met the Earl of Southampton and says, "Stop! I must read you my latest sonnet." And the Earl of Southampton said, "Don't you get it? It's not going to work, Shakespeare. We're done." And Shakespeare says, "Look, I didn't want to play dirty, but I'm going to play dirty. Now listen." And he reads Sonnet 120. "The fact that you were once an arsehole to me helps me now. And because of the sorrow I felt, I now must bow down to you under the weight of my own wrongdoing, unless my heart was made of something unfeeling like brass or steel. Because if you were hurt by the cruelty I showed you, as much as I was by yours, by the way, you've endured time in hell. And I, like a tyrant, didn't take the time to remember how much I suffered when you wronged me. Oh, if only your earlier sorrow had reminded me of how hard true sorrow hits. Then I would have apologized to you as quickly as you apologized to me, giving you the medicine that a wounded heart needs. But your earlier offence against me is now a kind of compensation for the bad stuff I've done. My offence cancels out yours, and yours must cancel out mine." So there we have it, Sonnet 120 and the story to go with it. Those of you with a keen eye might have noticed that I tried to burn a candle in the middle of that story, and then I started smelling smoke, and I realised that the flame was way too close to the wood, and it was about to catch fire. So that was why there was a little cut in that story while I dealt with that. But we're all here, still alive. Of course, if that was in Shakespeare's time with a thatched roof and all of that wood knocking about, I mean, it would be game over, wouldn't it? It would be game over. Anyway, until next week, where I have a very special guest. Bye!